guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be talking to you about 21 Savage's music and how it has impacted my life during one of the roughest times for me. So I'm sure if you've listened to Savage's music, he is known to be heavily autobiographical, and one of the people that he's collaborated with is Metro Boomin, and he has stated that Savage is one of the last streets N-word making music. If you can imagine Savage's music, it talks about violence and criminal aspects in his past life, which includes murder and drug dealing. So if you look at me, many of you can't assume that I do any of that or see any of that. So how can I relate to any of Savage's music? So I don't relate to all of his music, just some of his music. Savage has a wide variety of topics in his recent album, I Am Greater Than I Was. His album ranges between guns, a girl, and his mama. So his album seems pretty simple, but it's not. Savage, as a young kid, moved to the United States, specifically to the Atlanta, Georgia area, after about 7 years in London, where he was born. His parents got a divorce, and that is the reason for the move, which then led to his mother to find someone new and have more children. And then, according to JP, he tweeted, in 7th grade, Savage was banned permanently from every school in DeKalb County School District for gun possession. After all that happening, he went to school in the metropolitan area, and then the youth detention center after that. According to the Capital Extra, he then dropped out after the expulsions he had, he said, exhausted him, and went his separate ways to a local street gang affiliated with Wider Blood's street gang. He was a full-time gang member, which led him to be a full-time drug dealer. He regularly took part in car theft and robbery. The website The Fader mentioned in 2011, Savage lost his right-hand man, Larry, in a shootout, along with his friend Johnny in 2013, when Savage got shot 6 times against the enemy gang. After the death of his friend Johnny, he started rapping, and this was the beginning of something big. He had then a debut mixtape and was later called the Underground Hero in Atlanta. An underground hero, according to the Urban Dictionary, is the genre of music and or media intended for an elite audience that is often characterized by its high levels of originality and experimentation and does not conform to typical standards. The underground hero matters for the simple fact that Savage was not going to stay in the lower Atlanta shooting gang, and which was expected for his whole entire life, and he became better than that, as he somehow feels. And so now I'm going to kind of direct this into a different standpoint of the general public. So the reason why most men don't talk about personal things in their music is because the majority of people don't want to hear about it. If you notice, the majority of rappers talk about sex, money, gangs, and guns. Men don't always like to talk about them being in a steady relationship or how they messed up in a relationship. Savage raps about his life, whether it's past or present. So Savage himself writes in a song, ASMR, we was stealing cars, you was inside the house, I know he gonna be a rat one day, right now we call him a mouse. So in those verses, he talks about the past and what he used to do, using the keywords was. If you listen to Savage, you know that he talks a lot about guns and the fact that this album has a song dedicated to Gunsmoke, which is literally one of the songs in his album. There's a guy named Phillips. He states that 21 Savage is authentic, that's the word to describe him, when you mention his name. He's real, a street rapper that is truly a savage. One listening to his music is all it takes to realize this. There's a touch of realism that makes his stories about pulling up with a stick and kids catching stray bullets while playing hopscotch very chilling. In other words, Phillips believes that 21 Savage's songs are chilling to listen to, meaning goosebumps for how monstrous his life actually is. Phillips describes, in his world, girls are slaughtered before going to church, aunties are dope fiends with locked jaws, rounds are shot into mothers' homes, the plug is robbed, and best friends are killed before they can truly live a life. That is scary. So, Phillips' point is that Savage's life is filled with negative, terrifying violence. Savage turns his life into music that people enjoy, like myself. So, me, on the other hand, I'm a young woman getting to learn and go through things myself, I should say, and that stuff that, I've never done before. I have nothing really big that has impacted my life in such a way that it could ever be ruined like Savage's. I mean, I'm just an average girl listening to music that doesn't represent her or where she's from. And listening to Savage where I live is nothing unusual because he's got great music, good beats, and good lyrics. Just to clarify, Savage and I do not have the same lifestyle. In the album I Am Greater Than I Was, you can tell that Savage is getting more personal and acknowledges he is greater than he was before. Why I relate to this album so much is because there's a lot of personal stuff that 21 talks about that most people in the rap industry do not talk about. So, the difference between Savage and I is that we grew up in different areas and lived different lives, which make it very clear all throughout the video, which I do make it clear all throughout the video. So I'm not used to drive-bys on a daily. When I was younger, I did live in Gary, which is where I go to school at now, and my house was broken into 5 times, and we've always lived in constant fear, but never actually experienced the violence. I've never held a gun, when Savage has not only held one, but has fired one more than once. I've never... And according to his song Gunsmoke and the I Am Greater Than I Was album, he keeps a Glock on him at all times, and he says that more than once. And he says his Glock down is a no-no. And he fell in love with the Gunsmoke, along with other topics. Securities is something that we don't necessarily look eye to eye on. He seems to be very cocky when he comes to talk about past relationships and how this particular girl will always miss him because there's no one else like him. And on the other hand, I don't feel that way about myself. I mean, don't get me wrong, I know my worth, but I don't think I'm unforgettable like Savage. As I have said previously about Savage's life, he's used to being a drug dealer and was in a gang. He's had family and friends die over horrible circumstances and had to go through that pain where I could never even imagine or even have to worry about. So listening to Savage's music during one of the hardest times in my life was a blessing, even though we have obviously different circumstances and lifestyles. So this is kind of where I explain the hardest time in my life at the beginning of summer of 2019. So I've always been a very happy girl. Nothing ever went seriously wrong in my life, and I was satisfied. I was in a serious long-term relationship for almost 4 years, with whom I still believe is the love of my life. Sad, I know. Anyway, long story short, he broke up with me, and I had no clue what to do with my life. I mean, this guy was my literal best friend and didn't have anyone else, but in reality, I did. I had friends that were always there for me. I honestly have never felt so much pain in my life, and I realized that everyone goes through breakups differently, and everyone feels and acts differently about them. I just turn to music, and that would make me feel above anyone else or relate to, which would eventually get me through my breakup. 21 Savage was definitely a part of the music I needed to get me through it. So, I'm not sure about you, but when I want to focus on one thing, I do it. The whole reason why I'm talking to you about Savage is because of the relationship I have with his lyrics. In the song A Lot, Savage gets really personal, and I didn't see it until I went through some things in my own life to really open my eyes and see and hear what he speaks. So the first line you hear is, "I love you." When I first listened to the album, I never heard it because I wasn't necessarily wanting to listen to the background. He gets really deep when he says, "How many times did you cheat? A lot. How many times did you lie? A lot. How many times did she leave? A lot. How many times did she cry? A lot. How many chances she done gave you? Fuck around with these thoughts. A lot." I believe it should hit deep for any girl who's experienced a relationship with a man like Savage doing this. The difference is that men like Savage often don't acknowledge it. In the song Ball Without You, Savage talks about this girl missing him and doing stupid shit to make her stop missing him and just to forget Savage entirely. Savage specifically says, "You run around drinking liquor, taking pictures because you miss me. I know you miss me." And then he goes on to say, "Fucking the N-word because you miss me. You just want attention." I feel like not only me, but obviously a lot of other girls feel the same way that I did with my breakup. I may not have went around with my business and put it on other people, but I did want attention, and I did miss my ex, which is sad on my part. Savage has truly shown me that men like him could have a heart and feelings. Savage not only has other music that people can relate to, but also makes people think of both sides of the story. Savage's music explains his life, but if you notice, in general, he moves in a direction that is only forward and nowhere else. He will continue inspiring others if he keeps writing. That is relatable. That is so relatable and pushing through the relatable hard times. I mean, I almost started to cry there, but Savage. Thank you for listening. Bye.